we, the Mills administration, the Kufuor administration, the Mahama administrations all benefited from one oil field, the Jubilee fields.
Right.
But as a result of our strategic investments in that sector, by the time we were leaving office in 2016, we had discovered and started the development of 2 additional oil fields, the 10 and Sankofa fields.
Right.
Okay. And the projection was that commercial production was going to start in 2017. And so President Mahama predicted way back in 2016 that growth was going to increase to about 8% in 2017. And the World Bank, the IMF, and the Economic Intelligence Unit all confirmed that. And so when they came in and we recorded a growth rate of 7-8%, it was just as President Mahama had predicted, based on the solid foundation he had laid, based on the work we had done, based on the fact that they now had 3 oil fields, whereas we had only 1 oil field. Now, don't also forget that in 2016, we had a technical problem with the FPSO in Nkrumah, which is what we use, to produce oil, in the Jubilee fields. In fact, the turret bearing of the FPSO got damaged. And so for the greater part of 2016, we're not able to produce oil. And that is why overall growth for the year 2016 dropped to as low as about 3.6%, even though non-oil growth was about 4.6%. The overall came to 3.6 because that sector, the oil and gas sector, saw a negative growth of about negative 15.6%, a negative growth, because we're not producing the oil, okay, as a result of a technical problem that we are an act of God. And it could have happened to any government. It was not the creation of President Mahama or anybody in the NDC. Now they came, at the time they came, we had solved that problem. So that technical problem was not there. Dumso had been solved, okay? And in addition to that, we had given them the Atuabo gas processing plants, which produces gas to power, turbines and power plants like Car Power, Mary, all of which were brought into the country by President Mahama to deal with the Dumso situation. And so the economy we handed over to them was an economy without Dumso, an economy with not just 1 oil field, which was operating below optimum capacity as a result of a technical hitch. But we handed over to them 3 oil fields, which were all operational. And not just that, we handed over to them the Ghana Investment Infrastructure Fund, which had about $200 million in it for strategic infrastructure development for the country, set up by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama.
Funded by? How were you funded? There was
a certain percentage of tax revenue,
2.5%,
exactly, was going in there. Okay. Now, we also had the Exim Bank facility, which was supposed to, which is meant to support trade and commerce, particularly those who produce in Ghana for exports, with a lot of money in there. So we gave them an economy. We handed over to them an economy without Dumso, an economy with 3 oil fields, okay, an economy with a Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund, an economy with an Exim Bank, an economy with a sinking fund of $550 million for the payment of the first Euro bond, which was procured by the Kufuor administration. They took office, and they've been the luckiest government in the history of this country. They've borrowed more than any government in the history of this country. In the last 4.5 years alone, they've added a whopping 216 billion Ghana cedis to our public debt stock. Because from Kwame Nkrumah to President Mahama, at the time we were leaving office, the public debt stock stood at 120 billion.
Right, that is after Kufuor's
HIPIC, where we're forgiving about $5.4 billion. It came to 120 billion, which they bastardized us and berated President Mahama for and said we're incompetent and all that. And exactly, they said, yeah, TC Castles welcome there, and the money is here and all that. Now, people expected that when they assumed office, they were going to reduce the rate of borrowing. But what we have seen is a reckless pension. In fact, an unbridled pension for borrowing, like never seen in the history of this country, where in only 4.5 years, whereas they came to meet a public debt stock of 120 billion, they've increased it to over 336 billion, adding over 216 billion. Okay. Now, what that means is that today, we have been saddled with too much debt, that its servicing has even become a burden for our economy. Because we are spending almost all our tax revenue, over 90% of our tax revenue, on interest payment alone. Not even amortization. of the principal, but interest on our debt alone consumes more than 90% of our tax revenue. Okay, now even if you take total revenue, that is tax revenue plus revenue from oil, from gold, from cocoa, every revenue that government projects to get for the year 2021, the fiscal year 2021, we're spending more than 95% of that on just two items: interest payments and compensation. That's the wages and salary of public sector workers. And so after we deduct the wages and salaries of public sector workers from our total revenue, not tax revenue, because for tax revenue, interest payment alone consumes it. Okay, and we also deduct interest payment from our total revenue, we are left with basically nothing. So now we borrow to get money for our statutory funds, that is get fund, common fund. We borrow to get money for that. And the common fund has been in arrears for so many months now. And because of that, it is affecting or slowing down economic activity, okay, and the rate of development at the local level. Apart from that, we borrow for even goods and services. That is money for the running of government's business. What they use to buy fuel, what they use to buy paper, pen, to run the ministries and government agencies. We borrow money for all that. We borrow money for capital expenditure. That is money for roads, school. We borrow for almost everything. We don't have an economy. The economy is broke. Okay? That is the situation we find ourselves in. And I'm saying that situation is not the creation of COVID. It is the creation of this government. They are reckless and unbridled penchant for borrowing and spending those borrowed funds on consumption. Take, for example, the Mahama administration, which borrowed just about 56 billion Ghana cedis. You can see physical, significant, tangible projects that we invested these borrowed funds in there. Self-financing projects. Projects that create jobs, that create values, okay, that improves the livelihoods and the standard of living of Ghanaians. So you can talk about the Kaswa interchange, the Circle, Dubai interchange, the Ridge Hospital, the host of hospitals, the whole airport. And so
they be saying that you struggle with delivering two bridges or two overflights. There's the Circle one and the Kaswa one. That they've done,
No. We built Kwame Nkrumah interchange.
Okay.
President Mahama did that.
Right.
We built the Kaswa interchange. We secured funding for the Pukwasi interchange. Parliament approved that funding. They came and met it. We had already executed an agreement. The contractor was on site before they came. And so that is another Mahama legacy.
Right.
The Obechebe Lamte, we secured parliamentary approval for that in November 2016. Did all the drawings, executed the agreements. The contractor was on site before we left office. It's the same for the Tema flyover. So all these projects that they are desperately trying to claim are all part of the Mahama legacy. The only interchange President Akufo-Addo promised to build, which he has started, is the Tamale interchange, which, by the way, has stalled for a couple of months now. That is what they should focus on completing so that they can take credit for. But Obechebi, Pukwase, Tema are all the legacies of none other than His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. But so that I don't digress, let me go back to the point I'm making, that we borrow so much that we are spending almost all of our tax revenue on servicing that debt alone. We are spending almost our entire total revenue on compensation and interest payments alone. And we are left with nothing for the development of the country and the running of government business. That is the dire economic stress, the unsustainable debt hole that this reckless administration has plunged the country into. Today, when you divide the total public debt stock by the population of Ghana, which is 30 million, every Ghanaian, including a child who was giving birth to today, owes over 11,000 Ghana cedis.